chat about the NDIS specifically. So that's the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Specifically, the specialist disability accommodation. Is it a curse or a cure? So, in general terms, the usual disclaimer, the information that we are providing here today is of a general nature, and please everybody ensure that you're doing your own research and your own due diligence. So I see there's a good number of people in the room, some specialists as well. Welcome everybody, great to see you all. We're going to make it an interesting session. Let's cover a bit on the background first. So the National Disability Insurance Scheme was created because a lot of people with disability are in fact in the wrong accommodation. There are 20-year-olds that are sitting in hospitals and are unable to leave there simply because there is no specialist disability accommodation available for them. The government recognized that a couple of years ago and legislated $22 billion worth of funds to encourage the development of specialist disability accommodation. Now, of those 22 billion, and of the participants, about 6% are expected to be, hang on, I'll just see that I've got something hanging in front of the camera. About 6% of the participants will be expected to require specialist disability accommodation. So that makes it about $700 million per annum, or 28,000 people. Now, according to the research, there is a shortfall of 15,700 people that will require accommodation. So certainly a very tight market. The big change that the NDIS brought about, the specialist disability accommodation brought about, was to change the power into the participants. The funding is allocated to the participant, and the participant is at free will to choose their providers, to choose their accommodation. Now that's a big change that happened, and that's certainly a great change. The whole scene changed when this was changed, and it certainly is opening a lot more of typically smaller accommodation for the participants. Okay, let's just cover off on some basics. There are effectively 4 classifications or categories. We've got the improved livability, the robust, the fully accessible, and the high physical support. Now, the design criteria for each of one of those is different, and there are different target groups. I don't want to go too much into this because that's another whole subject in itself, just to provide the overview. Now, the system is quite complex. We see the participant as the centerpiece. The National Disability Insurance Scheme with the provider and the occupational therapist effectively do the allocations and support the participant. The localized rental manager looks after the localized rentals, and we as the SDA provider provide the building. Obviously, the developer and builder do their parts. Now, I think it's important to recognize that the NDIS participant is the driver and really is the person and should be the person in control. So let's have a look at some of the advantages and disadvantages. Certainly the accommodation, the right accommodation for the participants is the biggest advantage. The funding power now is at the participants, and the choice of the specialist disability is at the participants now. That also means that the big advantage comes from the strategic alliances, from the working together of the parties in the team. I alluded to the specialist providers, to the occupational therapists, and the rental managers. It really only works if everybody works together. And that's the trick, to also put a cohesive group of participants together that can live together, that can work together. And that is certainly a challenge that needs to be well managed, because you can imagine yourself, if you live with 2 or 3 people together 24/7, you want to make sure that you get along. And that again comes back to the right alliance partners. Now, what's the Property Friends difference? Well, we have made the decision, the tactical decision, to provide choice locations. So this, for example, are 2 dwellings that are on the golf course in Townsville. And if that isn't a great view to have from your front porch. So what we are looking to do is provide, next to the amenities, also greater lifestyle choice, greater opportunities to enjoy the magnificent locations. Allow me to play a brief video. It's only 1 minute. Yeah, so that's a view towards the couple of dwellings that we have there. And it's not hard to see how different this location is. The designs have to be obviously specialized and optimized. This is a design in Hobart in Tasmania. The carers bed up front, wide hallways, wide laundries, oversized bathrooms, oversized bedrooms, and specific and special kitchen facilities. Again, that is something that is dependent on the classification and categories. The designs change and have to be amended to that. Okay, what's the business case look like? Let's talk about the figures. Again, I keep it simple. So these packages are house and land, turnkey, a bit more expensive because we obviously need to find the higher specifications and build according to the higher specifications. And I don't mind admitting that the locations that we are providing are also a bit more expensive. So there is an SDA income. There are different classifications, categories that we had already discussed, and depending on the number of participants, the income changes. So a house with 2 residents for a fully accessible category in Townsville with a location factor of 1.03, in this instance is about $70,000 or 11%. Not at all a bad income. If we bring it up to 3 residents, the per unit basis changes. So that then gets to 85,485 with a location factor of 1.04. The location factor also changes, gets us to 14%. Now, here's my point. I'm not advocating to calculate on 3. I calculate on 2. We are conservative, and we suggest that it's better to keep space in the house and to preserve the conservative business case rather than going for the ultimate, which we have found at times is challenging to coordinate the rental and the mix of the people. So I'm suggesting to anybody out there, be conservative and calculate not necessarily on 100% occupancy. In my experience, 100% occupancy is very, very rare and hard to achieve. So why calculate on it? There are other factors to be considered. There are other income sources, the 25% of the disability pension. We see it as a pass-through for the local rental management. There is a 8 to 10% SDA income, which is effectively the overseeing rental management for the SDA property manager, which will be Property Friends. There needs to be a consideration given for the increased maintenance cost, that's for sure. And the right mix of tenants may take some more time up front. That is something that is often underestimated as well, and I want to bring that up very, very clearly. On the flip side of the coin, there is effectively a 20-year government-backed lease. So if you provide the right equipment, the right fit out, and the right mix of people, there is no reason why the participants shouldn't stay in the beautiful locations that we provide. Some hidden issues, some hidden secrets, not so much hidden. The house is much more expensive to build and fit out. It is, and not many people talk about that, because of the more expensive value of the house. It often does not stack up to the traditional LVR of 80%. So be aware that you might have to find some 20 to 40% equity. The banks go for comparative sales. The comparative sales and costings are lower in cost in the production cost, and that leads to this 20 to 40% equity requirement. There is a registration and compliance, both for the dwelling as well as for the SDA provider. And of course, one has to look at, or at least consider, some increased maintenance cost. Strategic alliances are the make or break in this system as far as I'm concerned. There's another participant coming in. Yeah. Okay. Strategic alliances are, as far as I'm concerned, the make or break in this whole thing, in as much that you want to have the right partners working together on this issue. And it's a scarce opportunity that wants to find the right people. The win-win outcomes, if you can do it properly, that is, we are providing great accommodation for the participants. There's still some people coming in, Germany. Yeah, there's still some great accommodation for the participants, and that is really what ought to be the driver. There are too many people in substandard accommodation, and to be honest, even on the risk of sounding corny, that is what drives us to make a difference in this whole thing. Yes, there are great investments, but we can also make a difference, and why not creating a win-win? The specialists, service providers must be working together, and that will lead to a great outcome. The sustainable investment can yield gross yields of 10% and above, and that is certainly a magnificent return. It's government backed for effectively 20 years, so who wouldn't want to have a 20-year lease? Now, we structure it into 3 to 5 year leases, and that works well. There is a shortfall in specialist disability accommodation, so the market is secured, and there are a lot of people playing the game now or want to get into that game, and ultimately I can see that great locations with the right fit out will win. You have to enroll and register both the dwelling as well as the SDA provider, and there is quite a bit of cost involved in that. The suggestion for people that want to know more, you will want to book a strategy discovery session on our website. Property Friends is a link to book sessions. All right, that was a quick overview. I invite you to use the message section and put any questions in there, and we'll go through it. Gurpreet, I hope I pronounce your name correctly, asked the question, is there a specific locations where NDIS type properties are popular? Yes, there are, and effectively the location factor will tell you that. The higher the location factor is, the more obviously the NDIS is also considering a shortfall in the dwellings. That is one set of the equation, but the other set of the equation is also to look at the pipeline. Who is doing what in the market and who is entering the market. There are some major players that are building substantial amounts of NDIS properties, and you want to check that one out as well. Is Queensland more popular than other states? I don't believe so. Queensland has had a run-up and has a bit of an advantage over the other states because the system started earlier there. For example, Western Australia is just as per the 1st of July, really only joining the NDIS fully. Would you expect investment in full or in a property share? Well, that's a great question. We suggest to keep things simple, and we do our investments on a one-to-one basis. We find it simpler and easier that way. The more simple we can keep the investment. We don't want to have to facilitate buying groups or anything like that as for one property. We do that on the wholesale market. We organize the buying group there and organize blocks of land and builders there. But as to the client side, we suggest it is better if you have full control. As an investor, what do I need to get started after my finances are sorted and ready to go? Well, my suggestion is to do your due diligence, make sure that you select as always, select the people, select the parties that you want to use to support you very, very well. To that extent, again, I'm inviting to book a strategy session, and that will be fine. There's still people coming in. Yeah, sorry, we're just about at the end, so we're at the question and answer session. Are SMSF allowed to invest in the scheme? Yes, absolutely they are, provided it complies with your SMSF rules, in as much that your investment strategy must be allowing this, but the NDIS properties are really no different than any other property. My understanding is that you can only do new and not established unless you, but look, this is a specialized area. My suggestion is to check with your accountants and do your research there. I'm not a financial planner or accountant, so I choose not to give advice on that, but generally speaking, yes, it is entirely possible. Okay, do we have any other questions? Let's just check that I've covered everything that came up. Yes, I think I've covered everything. Okay, so on that note then, thanks very much for listening. Thanks very much for joining in. It's been fun. Is there any other questions? Feel free to contact us through the links, both on Facebook as well as on our website. I wish everybody a good day, and check out the links and check out the system properly. We've just put into the chat also the link to the discovery session. Feel free to book that. This is a no cost, no charge session where we just want to make sure that everybody is aligned and everybody is happy to work together, because ultimately that's what it's all about. All right, thanks very much and have a good one.